Chapter 46. The sky was sunny. It was the perfect weather to go out, seducing male lead. Arriving at the military field, gently waving the fan Emily had brought, I did not go straight and checked it far away. Eckhart, the sword of the empire, could not interfere with the knight's time because he considered it very important as the title. I don't even want to get stabbed like last time. Fortunately, this idea was right. Training was done under the Maritime Affairs Department. I hid among the trees and peeped at the military field. There were also groups of people training in pairs, and some of them dragged heavy metal blocks around the military field to death. He also held a wooden sword and practiced cutting a scarecrow. Most wooden swords belonged to apprentices. I looked around there for Eccles, and when I finally found him, my expression immediately rotted. Why is he alone in such a miserable mess? Unlike other apprenticeship, Unlike other apprenticeships lined up in a row, he was training alone in a faraway place. I expected that he was being ostracized, but when I saw him with my own eyes, I felt mixed up. Watching him train, however, made me think so. Talk, talk. The men who had just become boilers practiced stabbing and hitting the vital points of the scarecrow. But unlike them, Eccles was not just stabbing and hitting, but almost mopping up the scarecrow. Part holes, perch. Every time he swung a wooden sword, a scarecrow as big as a human was chopped up like a radish. The straw powder splashed in all directions. He didn't cut it with a sword, but it seemed to break off because he hit it with force. Oh, is that the quality of the sword master? Of course, I just admired that I didn't know much about swordsmanship. If it wasn't long after I realized it was a long way off. The pole revealed by the completely drugged straw, and the blind sword wielded by Achilles touched. Pawak, with a loud rupture, the wooden sword he was holding broke in half. Achilles looked stunned at the two pieces of wood standing still. Hey, it was then. How many times do you break it? Damn it. Are you going to pay for the wooden sword, you son of a bitch? Puck! Someone came up quickly and kicked Eccles' belly mercilessly. That bastard's trying to shorten someone's string. I managed to squeeze myself out of the way. This is because I decided that it would be better to watch the situation first than to go forward recklessly. Indeed, like a melee, Eccles did not fall backward. I just took a few steps back, but the guy who hit him seemed to be even more annoyed by the look. Hey, aren't you going to get out of here right now? I'm sorry, I'm going to be more careful in the future. Did you break it once or twice? Every time I order a new wooden sword, I know how much you can see. Forget it. Stretch out. Speechless. Get out, you bastard. It's training time now. I will take the punishment after the training is over. Eccles replied, bobbing his head down. It sounds to me that the quarrelsome man was an engineer in charge of managing public items for training. Eccles' words were valid. It was common for training tools to be broken. Therefore, people usually buy and use cheap products in bulk. Therefore, it was very unfair to embarrass everyone and discuss punishment in front of them for breaking the cheap wooden sword. However, Ickley's response to punishment after training seemed very familiar. Looking at his expressionless face, I just thought, oh, it's gone. Ha, look at this son of a bitch. You're a slave. You're not training. Don't you get out fast? Speechless. Wow, you're a believer, aren't you? Perhaps he is getting more and more angry because of Eccles, who doesn't listen to him. He now slapped Eccles on the cheek with his hand that was hitting his shoulder. You got the wrong line, you piece of shit. I thought you caught it. I thought you were a rotten bastard. Speechless. If Our Lady Yvonne come back and kick that fake girl, do you think she will care a mere slave? I don't think you can handle your future properly. Don't insult my master. It was that moment Eccles, who had been staring at the ground all the time, raised his head and said. The man who was hitting him burst into laughter. Why, I even swears at the country when he's not around. Can't you just put yourself in here and swear at your master who doesn't show any sign of in front of you, huh? If you're an article, you shouldn't insult the lady. Yes, yes, thank you for the loyalty confession of a tearful slave. Forget it. Stretch out quickly. Speechless. Fuck you. You're still holding out. Hey, get him. He shouted at the other knights who had already gathered around him. Those who watched with interesting eyes as if they were all in one group caught Eccles. He did not rebel. I'm just looking into the air and dead with dead eyes. I noticed why Eccles did that. I told him to make everyone admit him to staying at the dukedom. If he rebel here, he is afraid I'll hear that he caused trouble. That's why he worried about going back to the slave market. The men who caught Eccles knocked him to the ground violently. Several others dragged the jackstones from somewhere. Hey, step on him, step on him. I moved at the point when the first one to pick a fight shouted with excitement. The only weapon I had was a fan. Coming up silently, I folded the fan I was holding and hit him on the head. Oh, damn it, what kind of son of a... Hello. My voice rang low on the noisy field. Ha, Hyok, Princess, the eyes of the man who had just giggled with a despicable look have become big enough to roll over. As soon as he shouted for the terminal, all the drivers holding Eclipse stopped moving. Some people who found me late opened their mouths. My gaze, which had been scrutinizing those funny things, touched Eclipse, who was lying on the dirt floor. I was surprised to see him myself, but his gray pupils slowly grew bigger. Favorite 27%. I was relieved to see the rising favorability. It seemed to show up on time. Checking all the faces of the men, I opened my mouth with an indifferent look. You're having fun with my escort. Speechless, someone explain what you're doing. Naturally, no one was willing to answer. The field, which had been noisy a while ago, quickly calmed down, as if it had poured cold water on it. I could feel even those in other areas looking at me with a pause in training. I pointed to the guy I just hit in the back of my head with a fun. You, what's your name? Well, do you mean me? Yes, what part of you do you belong to? First Division? I'm Mark Albert, the second platoon of the third division. I burst out laughing at his answer. I said how high because he's catching a child like a rat. In the capital, where there was no chance of war, the third and fourth divisions were like guards guarding the house. It means he's a nobody. You explain this situation. Yes, yes. As I watched, you seem to be the first one to start. Well, that's when he heard of what I was watching. He was in a daze. It was nowhere to be seen, sarcastic, calling me a fake. From the tense images of the nights, I noticed yesterday that news about Mrs. Donna had spread throughout the mansion. What are you doing? Why don't you explain it quickly? Yes, yes. The slave, no, Eclipse had an accident during training. At my urging, he opened his mouth. What accident? He broke a wooden sword. The price of a wooden sword has gone up a lot these days, and he had broken it once or twice. So, well, I was admonishing him, but then he suddenly came up against me, a senior, and it was, really? Yes, yes. He broke his head and nodded hurriedly, as if he had gained hope that I had been convinced by his gentle voice. But what if there is? Yes? In the absence of it, I am insulting the country and also the masters, and if there is. His expression was dazed. I rolled up the corners of my mouth and smiled brightly. Is it okay if I kill you right here, now, for blasphemy? A chilling silence fell upon my words. The guy in front of me just stammered with his mouth open. Princess. In the chilly atmosphere, one of the less than expected articles stepped out. Compared to others covered in dirt, he seemed to be more of a superior than a small group. First of all, calm down. I'll bring the captain right now, and then I'll take care of him. Eclise, I called Eclise without even listening. His eyes, which still sat on the floor and looked up at me, changed. Kill this bastard. I pointed at Mark with a fan. At that moment, Eclise sprang up from her seat. End of chapter 46. Chapter 47. Princess. Mark was bewildered and called me out loudly, but when there was no answer back, this time he chattered to Eclise. What's wrong, Eclise? Perhaps he felt unusual coming to me. He looked around asking for help. A superior stepped forward again. This time other articles also joined forces. Eclise, stop it. It's an order. Yes, I was just a little too much. I'll apologize. Quaduk. But Mark finally couldn't talk. This is because Eclise, who grabbed the back of his head, quickly pulled him toward me. Ku. Embracing the blinding Mark in his arms, Eclise began to strangle him dreadfully. Mark's suffocated eyes opened wide. Eclise, what are you doing? Stop it. The knights called him in full of astonishment, but Eclise remained adamant. Even though they saw a slave strangling his colleague, none of them rushed forward, even though there was an order from me, but a great deal of life was leaking out of the slaves had ignored. Oh no. Meanwhile, Mark's tongue stretched out of his mouth. The saliva ran out his chin. Dirty fluid soaked the strangling arm, but Eclise didn't budge. Princess, you can't do this. The knights who were watching their breathless colleague eventually bowed their knees in front of me. We're sorry. I'll report this to the leader without fail, and all of us will volunteer to receive a reasonable punishment. Speechless. Dear Princess, murder is strictly prohibited within the Knights of Eckhart. I poked at my ears, wondering where the dog was barking. It was something I learned from Ranald yesterday. Princess, with Mark's eyes finally turned upside down. Stop. I raised my hand and ordered him to stop. Eclise, who seemed busy strangling him, immediately unfolded his arms as if he had waited for my hand. Flop. Kuyuk. Boo-hoo. Hoo. Oh, ha. Ha. A man who fell on the floor grabbed his neck and coughed violently. I was inwardly surprised as I looked down at it with an expressionless face, because I didn't know Eclise would immediately fulfill my orders. I thought you tried to kill me this the whole time. Of course, I didn't mean to kill Mark. It was an order issued with the determination to use a ruby ring on his left hand. After you've strangled the bully, I won't be offended by using the controls. However, Ickley's unexpected departure from Mark was immediate. I put my orders before my personal opinion. I was more than satisfied with it. Didn't he say that if the real princess come back, she will kick out the fake and can't take care of him? I glanced around the frozen area, and the expression of the knights, which had already been hardened, became more rigid in my words. But would it be faster for me to be kicked out, or would it be faster for you to be fired? I laughed as if I were joking around, stretching out the end of my words. It was then, system. The dukedom has -5 reputation due to the deteriorating relations with the neighbors. A system window popped up before my eyes. Unfortunately, fame has fallen, but the knights were not the target, so it was none of my business. I turned to the real target. Eclise, come here. He came up to me immediately. Let's go. I held Eclise's wrist tightly with his unarmed hand and led him out of the military field. Favorability 32%. It was still an inorganic look, but the rising favorability was just like a shaky dog's tail. Lady, when I went to the front door of the mansion with the eclipse behind me, the butler who was waiting with the carriage welcomed me. You are very beautiful today. Are we ready to go out? Yes, I have prepared a carriage with defensive and tracking magic. You've already got the escort. The butler glanced sideways at the eclipse behind me and continued. I've assigned you a magician of the clan. In case of an emergency, we'll teleport you to their mansion. Like Winter, the wizards did not reveal their identities well. Therefore, the price used was very expensive. It's rare for a royal family to use a wizard as a horse when going out. Are you sure you're a duke? I was delighted with the treatment that was getting better, but I pretended to be insignificant. Good work, butler. And this, whether there was anything left, the butler took something out of his arms and handed it over. The duke told you to have a good time because it's been a long time since you went out. It was a blank check. I looked at it in surprise, not knowing that the duke would care so much about yesterday. If you knew I was on my way back from throwing a bomb at the military field, you wouldn't give me something like this. I hesitated whether I should take it willingly. It was the butler who instigated me like that. Take it, miss. You haven't even called the merchants these days. Yes, well, I can't help it. I gave up my hesitation and gladly accepted it. Tell him I'm very grateful. Of course, I turned around and walked to the carriage that stopped Eccles, who had been standing without saying anything until then, suddenly followed me. Standing in front of the open carriage door, I reached out to him silently. He just stared at my hand. Maybe it's because he's been left unattended for too long since I brought him here. Nicholas didn't seem to have think about escorting me like a real escort. Fool, this is when you have to escort, lady. I winked at him, then the gray eyes shook slightly once. But I'm a slave. No, I corrected his words immediately. You're my escort now. Speechless, then what should we do now? I gently waved before him. It was a left hand with a ruby ring stuck in it. Suddenly, Ickley smiled quietly. He held my hand and leaned slowly. He kneeled on the floor with one leg bent, and even the butler did an amazingly perfect job. And looking through my eyes, he said, Please crush my leg and get onto the wagon, master. Lady, can I take you to the dress shop first? When Eclipse already sat on the wagon, the horseman asked, No, go to the arms dealer. I answered indifferently, with my chin resting on the window frame. Soon, the carriage started. The magic is on. The ride was as good as a car. I was looking interestingly out the window that passed by quickly. Why? Suddenly I heard a small murmur from across the seat. I turned my head and met Eclis, who was staring at me. He looked at me with unknown eyes and opened his mouth. Why haven't you been looking for me all this whole time? It was an unexpected question. I looked over his face, wondering if he was blaming me for something like today, but I couldn't figure out what he was thinking. Are you upset? I asked openly. In that case, he intended to apologize, but you promised. What? I hope you will come to me often as a hard-trained award. Oh, I managed to swallow the groans that burst. I forgot why I didn't find him. The memory of the rainy day, the eerie. I've been waiting for you every day, not knowing what I was thinking. Eclipse muttered in a whisper. Would it be because of the mood if the expressionless face just now looks a little sullen? I tapped on the window frame and picked on an excuse that didn't find him. I'm so disgusted. Question mark. You lied to me, Eclipse. What? His eyes were round, except for the look of a dead body. He looks so fine that I think he's a well-made doll. You said no one was bothering you, but you had this on your pretty face. I reached out my hand and stroked his cheek. He flinched noticeably and beat his upper body backward. As if embarrassed, I smiled briefly. looking at the fluctuating gray eyes compared to other times. At that time, speechless, it was really not there. Eclis made an excuse in a rather hasty tone. There must be quiet. I inwardly denied his words. You wielded a sword as if you were going to kill someone, and nothing happened. The more I saw him, the more awkward he was. Anyway, you didn't tell me about this first, so the prize is invalid. But, shh, I'm here to give you another prize, so don't whine and wait a little bit. I tried to appease him by blocking his retort. Eclis' cheeks blushed faintly, perhaps because my words don't whine were shameful and favorability 33%. End of chapter 47. Chapter 48. I was astonished by the slight change that I would not notice without careful observation. How old is Eclis? Just by looking at his face, he was like a much younger and naive boy. I thought over the game. I couldn't remember his age easily because I couldn't memorize each character's profile. However, normal mode was set to take a year to finish all routes after the return of the female lead, and Diclis marries the female lead after an adult ceremony in an epilogue that comes right after the ending. In this game, adulthood means that 18 years old past their birthday. Then now Eclis is, it means you're at least 17 years old. I was originally 20 years old, so I was tailing to seduce a much younger spirit. But why does it seem like I'm being seduced? It was when I was looking closely at Eclise, whose redness had already disappeared. Lady, we're already arrived. The carriage stopped. It was time to reward the promiscuous slave. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Welcome. As soon as he found the carriage with the patterns of Eckert, the owner of the arms dealer jumped out and bowed 90 degrees at the entrance. Is this where they sell the finest magic sword in the Empire? Yes, lady. Our shop handles all kinds of rare weapons as well as swords. Just tell me, Eclis, come in with me. I called him standing by the carriage. He hesitated as if he had decided he could not go in with me. Welcome. When I urged him one more time, he also stood right behind me without further delay. Do you have a wooden sword with an enchantment? I decided to buy the most urgent thing first. Then the arms dealer looked like he heard something strange. You mean the wooden sword? I have a wooden sword, but I don't know how to strengthen it. No, I frowned. I was recommended by the butler that he was famous, so I thought he will do a great job. Wow, we can make customizations if you want. The arm dealer, who saw a disapproving look, hurriedly added, but it's a very rare for anyone to go that far with a training wooden sword. When you have a certain basic posture, you're usually supposed to use a real sword. I coughed in vain, feeling embarrassed. He showed too much of a sword need. We don't have any enchantment magic at the wooden sword, but there are many things that are never broken because they are made of old wood. Just show me around first. After a while, we entered a room with only wooden swords everywhere. Next to me, I was looking around when I heard the owner talking nonstop. To be honest, no matter how much I look at it, it was just different in color, but it was all from place to place. Do you like anything? I handed the option over to Eclis, but he shook his head. I don't know. Is it bad? That's not it. It looks the same as the ones on the military field. I can just use them, master. No way. Listening to Eclis' words, the owner shouted hastily. Everything here is strong enough to compete with the real sword, especially the Paulonia trees that grow in fairy forests are sharp enough to cut rice straws. No matter how good it was useless if the person receiving the gift what not, was not even choose it. I can't help it. I let out like a sigh, and the owner thought I didn't like it. He stopped the act of recklessly taking out the wooden swords. Well then, go to the real sword, not the wooden sword. What are you talking about? Yes, from here to here. I recited from the entrance to the very end of the room with my hands clasped. Send them all to the Eckert mansion. It would be nice to buy a lot of strong ones in case they break. Next was a training suit, perhaps because he was tall and handsome. At least new look was absolutely stunning. That's good. I snapped out, looking around him once, an excited arms dealer spat and fluttered. Of course, these are the best items in the capital city. Do you like it? Ignoring the opinions of the parties involved, I asked belatedly because I thought I had too much of my own way. Italy stared at me and asked me back with an expressionless face. What about you, master? Is master like it? Somehow I had a hunch that if I did, I would say no right away. I only chose what I liked, and of course I like it. I'm asking how you are, Eccles. It wasn't empty words, so I added with a small smile. I don't have to wear them. If master like it, then I like it too. Really? So I was overjoyed at Eccles' hearty answer. Send me 3 of this. In all kinds. Yes, yes, of course, that's what it is. The arms dealer's mouth opened wide at my words. Then shall we go shopping for the real sword for the last time? I clapped my hands lightly and turned around. The arms dealer rushed after me. It was then. Master, this is enough for me. Achilles came up with a quick step and blocked my way. Why? Sword is the most important thing for knights. What I wanted to say was replaced by a rich arms dealer. I looked back at him with a nod. There should be sword. Is it because you feel pressured? No, I'd rather. At least hesitated to answer. I don't think I'll ever use a real sword. I don't want to keep the gift from my master for nothing. Why do you think you won't ever use it? After the basic swordsmanship, you'll also use the real sword in sparring. Yes, yes, you're right 100 and 1,000 times. The owner nodded his head too much to my question. Achilles did not hesitate to answer. It's just like a thunderbolt. Thunderbolt. Slave can't be a formal knight. Speechless. So all I need is a wooden sword to train. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't say anything. He knew he couldn't be a knight, but I was the only one who was under the premise that it would happen someday. Come to think of it, it's all because Penelope died that Achilles became a full-time knight. I was in a situation where he was bullied, but I was in a hurry to pay attention, so I couldn't even think about the game. In order for me to leave, maybe at least shouldn't be a formal article. Perhaps he thought I was reconsider buying a real sword. When I was lost in thought, the arms dealer hurriedly added, Wah, what are you talking about? Still, sword is a must as a guard to protect his master. My body is enough to escort my master. Speechless, the arms dealer was frightened and immediately shut up. In fact, it was so true that I had nothing to say. Considering his brilliant track record, he was like a weapon all over his body. First of all, it's okay, if you think so. I nodded my head in a coolly way. It was also not good to force the burden on those who had already given up. I'll have to look around a little more, so go outside first and wait. At my words, Eccles turned his back immediately. I shrieked at him, walking along, without even saying hello. Who's your master? As I've felt before, Eccles never stepped forward and set an example, unless I pointed out. He was such an impudent fellow for a slave. Well, do you need anything else, miss? Just tell me. The two men asked me, looking at my wits. Now that you're here, let's go see the magic sword. Oh yes, this way please. The arms dealer was pleased with my words. It was worth it because it was the main item for sale. Certainly the place where the magic sword was displayed was much larger and wider than the others. The number of swords on display was also enormous. I looked around the swords with admiration. From small daggers to large swords the size of my body, there were many different kinds, but the decorations, cuts, and the handles were all splendid and magnificent. It's just too conspicuous. If there Is there anything simple? Then please wait a moment, miss. Somehow the arms dealer searched the corner of the display case with a grim face. How about this? After a while, he brought a white box of dust. It was too small to have a sword in it, like an accessory case. What is this? The sword of the ancient wizard. He unlocked the box with a package of keys. As I was about to feel bad when I saw dust piled up, I became a little interested in the word ancient wizard. The arms dealer who pulled out the lock opened the door. Inside the open box with a rusty sound of key. What's this? There was a rugged iron necklace with a tiny sword-shaped ornament about the size of a sword. Are you trying to play with me? Give me a simple sword or a necklace with a sword ornament. Moreover, the sword-shaped decoration did not have a single jewel attached to it, far below the aesthetic standard. I frowned violently. Then the arms dealer raved, Oh no, no way. Then what is this? Here, if you hold the handle of the sword and blow in your mana, the sword-shaped decorations turns into a real sword. End of chapter 48. Chapter 49. The arms dealer handed me the handle with his index finger and thumb and urged me to hold it. I couldn't believe it was easy to turn sword like a baby's toy. I asked, still with a doubtful look, then it doesn't mean that those who don't have magic can't use it. The long trained knights are bound to operate mana little by little, otherwise you can't use the magic sword. He also made it obvious that he didn't know much. I quickly turned the subject around with a dry cough. I don't know if Eclipse has magic. Don't worry, miss. I've been selling weapons in the capital for decades. I assure you that slave. While he was talking in a sly manner, he changed his words in a hurry at the sight of my eyes. Not, but the spirit of the escort was great. I've been running the arms dealers for 30 years, but I can't believe I've ever seen someone who's been spouting such a horrible aura. Really? Yes, of course. I was itching to brag. He's going to be the sword master, but I held back. In fact, this sword is so rare that we've been trading on the black market for a very high price, but it's also too expensive and knights usually look for fancy swords first. The arms dealer whimpered, My poor baby. Although this sword doesn't have any special enhancement magic, it is made from a rare mineral. How the hell they make it? was made of steel from the mines of the extinct dwarfs a long time ago. Is it good? There is still no way to make it same. It's their secret. This is good one. I didn't understand the half, so I just nodded silently. In addition, when it gets smaller, the size of the mana engraved on it becomes smaller. Even if you're in a place where you're not supposed to be armed, no one will notice you're carrying a sword. Even in a palace, for example. The arms dealer nodded and looked around for no one, then whispered secretly, "That's perfect for assassinations." It was too much in common sense. Who would assassinate with a small, growing sword, other than a poison or a citation? I didn't show up my thought because I liked the sword itself very much. You can show it to anyone else, but you can always have a sword. I actually thought of a small type of dagger, but I thought this would be better. If it glitters anyway, it will be used as a weapon as soon as it is lifted, whether it is a magic sword or a toy necklace. Well, I'll take this. Thank you, miss. I can't believe my baby finally found such a worthy guest. The arms dealer immediately asked with tears in his eyes, "Do you want to send this to the mansion together?" "No, give it to me now." After a while, as I was about to leave the arms dealer, I suddenly stopped walking on the glistening thing that caught my eye. What is this? To be sold at the top of the weapon, it looked quite glamorous and elegant. There were letters carved inside a circle as small as a token, and there were glittering jewels in between. It was the first time I've seen it. Oh, it's a kind of amulet. Amulet? Yes, it's a hunting competition soon. It is the most popular product among women these days to give as a gift to lovers and family members who participate in hunting. Really? What effect does it have? The magic is automatically activated in case of an emergency because we have a magic stone embedded in the original sheet. What kind of magic? That depends on the order. Most of them are defensive magic, but some teleport to a safe place. Oh, that's good. These days, detachable magic is built in, so you just have to stick it anywhere on your body. The merchant, who recognized that I'm listening with an exciting face, immediately threw the bait. Would you like to take a look? I nodded. Not long after I came out of the top, I had a Cleese necklace and three colorful amulets of gold, silver, and bronze. Did you have a good time? Instead of the reticent Eccles, the horseman rushed in and took a shopping bag in my hand. It was an amulet. I hid a present for Eccles in my inner pocket. Where shall I take you now, miss? I heard there's a quiet lake on the west side. Oh, you mean the Lake Kalia? I'll take you there. The carriage left without a sound. Actually, I was thinking of buying a lot of new dresses and accessories since I came out, but I was already tired because it's been a long time since I went out. I wanted to go back to the dukedom, but I still have a present to give. I should give you what I promised. I was going to put an end to the grief and resentment accumulated in Eccles' mind today. Miss, we're here. Soon after the carriage stopped, I got off the wagon with the help of Eccles. He naturally stood a few steps back. It was to fulfill his duty as an escort. Please take a walk with me. Wouldn't it be lonely to walk alone? I looked back at him like that and reached out my hand gracefully. Eccles hesitated for a moment and then slightly caught the edge of my hand. It was such a feeble force that I didn't even feel like I caught it. I clicked my I clicked my tongue and I clasped the hand first. I felt his twitching fingers. I glanced sideways and saw him bow his head down. Unfortunately, however, the favorability remained unchanged. We held hands and walked along the well-made promenade for a long time without a word. We finally arrived at the observation deck built on the lake. It's a place like a dating spot, but there weren't many people because it was daytime on weekdays. He laid his arms on the railing and watched the view of the lake for a while. There was a gentle breeze from afar, accompanied by the scent of water. I glanced back at the man who stood there, neither looking at the scenery nor trying to talk to me. Are you feeling better? The gray eyes that were facing to the air moved toward me, as if to what he was saying. He was wondering, you've had a bad day since this morning. Ichlis did not answer immediately. In the end, he answered my question, huh? As if he was reluctantly making excuses. It wasn't a big deal. I asked as carefully as I could because I had committed a crime. How many more things like this have happened? It's the first time. Ichlis, I called him out like a sigh. Don't try to trick me with a blatant lie. I told you, make everyone admit you staying at the mansion. Speechless. I'm not going to scold you for not doing it right now. It's beyond your control, so I'm coming forward. Speechless. Does Ranald take the lead in harassing you? Eccles looked at me with a strange look and silence. I was getting oops. I was getting more and more upset. Tell me how Ranald has been doing to you. I'll figure it out myself. How? Eccles, who had been silent until then, tilted his head sideways. What can the master do to the knights? I lost my words for a moment. It seemed sarcastic about what you could do with your subject, but there was no expression on your thin face like a wax. No matter what, nothing will change now that I'm a slave, master. Speechless. If it's for me, just pretend you don't know, because I don't care. I was embarrassed by the unexpected answer. However, the hidden meaning behind it was not immediately understood. I'll stick with you, so don't make me get kicked out for nothing. Unexpectedly, he may have adapted to the dukedom's mood faster than I thought, and that's how much you know about the prince's position. Agreed, 33%. I glanced up over his head, only 33%. It has barely surpassed the basic level of favorability given at the start of normal mode. Eccles was a tough opponent, even in normal mode, where the difficulty was easy. I thought it was because Penelope had a little loyalty. Now I get it. His original personality was the truth just a close tug of war for one's own survival. Seeing the favorability of over 30%, I seemed to be feeling better without even realizing it. After the morning incident, frankly, hope has swelled. At this rate, I thought I would be able to see the ending quickly, and I felt funny when I was dragging myself to the arms store. Yeah, you're right. I don't know how hard the reality is, I replied in a weak voice. Now you know my position in the dukedom. Why didn't he think that while I was weighing all the bread for him, he was also measuring whether I was a lifeline or a rotten rope? I don't have the power to dismiss you right now. Speechless. As long as you're a slave, there's no fundamental solution to bullying. There wasn't much I could do. As Iklis pointed out, you can go to the Duke and say that bullying is rampant in the Knights, but you have already put the wrong button for the first time. A Duke who's not happy with what I've brought would never care about the bullying of slaves. I gave up the idea of trying to calm him down, but I'll keep you on the knighthood. I gazed at him with a blank face, and my brain was as arrogant as usual. Your sword must be worth a little bit to catch the Duke's eye. Speechless, so bear it even if you're sad. Note, keep training and improve your skills. Speechless. Sometimes I'll go and play with you like I did today. End of chapter 49. Chapter 50. Even if I could step on the little ones, I couldn't handle it to Reynold, who led the bullying, so I didn't say any more things about the solution. I was also walking on thin ice day by day in the midst of their leading abuse and contempt. You and I, we've had a nasty life. Suddenly, a laugh burst out. How could I choose male lead, who is at the bottom of the line, even if he was all out? Come to think of it, I'm the one choose the situation. I knew that it was easier to win favor of the one who had nothing than the one who had a lot of things. Come to think of it, come on, take this. It was impossible for me to give up surprise gift with a lovely face like a woman in normal mode. I relaxed my grip on the necklace and held it out to him. It's like a toy, but it's a sword. Hold on to the handle and give it a try. Iklis looked down at the necklace that came out of nowhere at me with a puzzled look. I couldn't believe it was a sword. Quickly, at my urging, he reluctantly lifted the sword with his thumb and index finger. It was that moment a bright light came out of his hand, and at one point Iklis' hand had a long sword in his hand. Ah, Iklis looked at the sword protruding out of nowhere with his big eyes. Unlike other swords, it looked rugged, without a single jewel or ornament, but the light flowing through the blade was unusual. I thought I could get a 10 times refund if I got cheated, but it was real. Whether it's because he is an male lead, Iglis wearing a new training suit and standing with a grand iron sword in one hand is quite stylish. No one can imagine him being a slave. I could feel the occasional crowd around him glancing at him. This is why, Iglis asked, looking down at the sword in his hand. The voice from him sounded somehow clogged. I opened my mouth with a hint of his majestic iron sword. In the Inca Empire, it was unreasonable for a defeated slave to wear a sword. Speechless, but if you don't change your mind to take me as your master, the article I'm going to keep next to, speechless, you're the only one. Iglesis' pupils expanded even larger than when he found the necklace turned sword. What will you do? Originally, I was not planning giving him sword and threatened him like this, like the female lead of normal mode. I intended to recite a touching line saying, no matter who you are a knight to me forever. Haha, I'm so touched by my subject that I'm frozen to death. From the time I brought up the subject of bullying, I swallowed my tears in a tumultuous atmosphere culminating in threats. Choose whether you'll get the sword I give you or keep being enslaved. Speechless, Iclis only glanced at me, and there was no answer. I had given up halfway. If he didn't take it, I was going to take it back and give it to him as a duke or Derek as a gift. It was then, suddenly, the sword with Eclis was lifted high and, Kwaji, the sword was thrust into the wooden board floor. What are you? The moment I started at his sudden action, he slowly boiled his knees in front of me, and he rudely grabbed my hand, which had been lying at random, and clasped it tightly in his grasp. As your only sword, I pledge eternal obedience and loyalty. Eclis bowed slowly, muttering the words. The dry lips touched the back of my hand. The first touch with male leads was a slight temperature that was either cold or hot, nor hot. But I didn't even feel him right. I swear, eternal obedience and love as your only sword. Wasn't it too early for me to for a loyalty confession? In normal mode, Eclipse's vows to the female lead were distinctly different. Anxiety swept over, but favorite 40%. The soaring popularity weighed down on the unknown anxiety at once. The situation is just different. So comforted, looked down at Eclipse, kissing on the back of my hand. I could see the neat top of the grayish hair. Don't betray me, Eclipse. I mumbled my heartfelt words for the first time to my naked man. Betrayal only meant death. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Everything bought from the arms dealer was delivered to the dukedom the next day. When the workers saw the boxes piled up like mountains in front of the gate, the employees opened their mouths and sighed. Lady to Penelope, well, that's all. What's all that? It was only after I just got up and washed my face when the frightened butler hurried to the room. What? You said you'd been out for a long time, but the butler was unable to speak at my question. What weapons did you buy so many? In particular, there are more than 60 boxes full of wooden swords. Well, it doesn't seem enough. I shrugged, recalling what happened yesterday. The butler was silent for a moment. He looked at me with a look as if he were looking at an immature child and sighed. And then he opened his mouth again. You have such a beautiful mind for worrying about the knights, miss. Speechless. The Duke don't spare money on the knights, and so are the wooden swords. There's still a lot left, so you don't need to buy a new one. Who cares about who? Listening to him, I tilted my head. Meanwhile, the butler added with a look of regret, it's been a long time since you've been out, and you should have bought more jewelry than that, or a dress or something. Butler, something must be wrong. I corrected his idea with a frown. They weren't bought for the knights of the family. What? Then, it's a gift to my escort. He stammered back to see if my big actions were unbelievable. Well then, all that stuff. The butler must have heard about yesterday's commotion. The butler's face, which had been stained with embarrassment by my words, suddenly darkened. Well then, people who swear at me will say I somewhat pretty and asked to buy weapons. I snorted inwardly at his reaction, and I drove a wedge so that there would be no one in vain. I bought it for Eclipse because he didn't seem to have enough training items to use. Why, there's no room to store it? No, no. The butler shook his head in a hurry. It was ridiculous that there was no place to store them in the dukedom, where there was a space left. Of course, the butler would not be at all embarrassed by it, but I answered deliberately by distorting his question as something else. I meant not to ask further questions. I'm sure Lady got an idea. Soon the butler nodded slowly and agreed with me. Unexpectedly, I thought you were going to complain one or two more words. I reminded myself of my position a few times, but the attitude of treating Penelope as an ignorant had not changed. I opened my mouth with a curious look at him, who had clearly turned into an apology 2 days ago. I'm good enough to care about him, so I don't have busy butler to pay attention to him. Then, just watch as you have been. Sometimes when something like yesterday happens, you inform it to me. Okay, I'll arrange the gifts you bought in a warehouse where only your escort can. Thank you. I smiled briefly at him, who responded politely. It felt good to communicate with each other in this house for the first time in a while. Sometimes after the butler left, Sometime after the butler left, Emily came to visit with breakfast. Miss, I heard the morning stuff was your escort's gift. She chattered wildly, setting the tableware on the table. Rumors spread quickly. You should take me with you. Emily made a pretty sad appearance. A maid in charge of the nobility is inseparable. Since the trust of her owner leads to the power of her servant, I understood her grumbling that she decided not long ago to become my hand. Take this. I handed her what I had taken out before. This it's this it's it was an amulet for the same color bought from the arms dealer. Emily didn't take it easy, but she just looked down at my hand with her big eyes. What are you doing? Not take it quickly. What is this? What is it, miss? It's your gift. Gift, it protects you from unknown dangers. Amulet's gift to Emily was not so valuable because the spell of vision was so comprehensive and vague, but it's a universal gift for dear people. I have a lot of enemies. You're now my person, and you never know when or where bad things will happen. You keep them in your body and all the time. As a way of venting my anger the other day, I had a word of apology for Emily. Moreover, she had once refused the expensive jewelry I gave her, so I honestly didn't want to test it. If she refused even this, I thought she might have another plan. Miss, but Emily, who raised her head, cried and called me. Well, I've never received a gift like this while I was working for the Duke. Really? It's so pretty. I'll treasure it. That's a relief. I will serve you harder in the future. Really. She swore her allegiance several times with a determined look. When I saw it, I felt a long way off when I first came here and was stabbed by a needle. It was then system has gained a reputation for five due to improved relationships with his neighbors of the Duke. A white square window popped up in front of my eyes, and my reputation, which had fallen not long ago, was restored. Thank you, miss. Thank you so much. I thought about it every time, using Emily's back-stretching voice as the background sound. If it's going like this, how good it is. End of chapter 50.